You know, there's a battle in the mind. In most people, there's a battle in the mind. And I've got proof for you today that your mind is not designed for battle. Because if it was, the war would be over, wouldn't it? It's really not that good at battle because it keeps going on and on and on. So the war of worry just eats you alive. My name is Mr. 2020. You are listening to the Power of Imagination podcast, where we don't buy into stupid shit. What we do is we buy the pearl of great price. Today's show is sponsored by pearlpowerpack.com. We did 3 live calls on the pearl. Go read the story, tattoo the quote to the inside of your eyelids, and change your life. pearlpowerpack.com. Right now you can get all 3 for the price of 1. What does that even mean? Go there and find out. But let's dive in. Battle in the mind. You don't need to have that anymore. You will continuously have it as long as you believe that the mind is what matters. The mind is not what matters. Your mind will drive you mental if that's what you think. If you assume that the rearview mirror is how you steer the car, you're going to crash. And when you explain to the police officer, I shouldn't have crashed, I was twisting the rearview mirror as hard as I could, right? Things get questioned, don't they? Like your sanity. So looking into the past at all times, trying to figure out what went wrong, what to do different, what to do next, in your mind, what they did before, what grudges I can hold, and projecting that into the future using your mind. Grandpa would say, mind your own business. But let's keep going. Your mind is not meant for war. And when you put this huge responsibility onto it that it isn't designed for, you get endless war. Endless inner conversations that suck the life out of you. Stop it. By the way, we did a live call on that too. Email me if you want some details or to get the recording. Because you don't have to live with endless inner arguments. Good, bad, indifferent. At the end of the day, the inner arguments get you nowhere. Blaming the inner arguments and trying to change them. A lot of people try that, by the way. You know, radio, if I can just change that inner argument and win it, or if I can just stop the inner argument and do affirmations, that's like blaming the radio. Radio. God, I love the radio in my new car. I got me a new used collectible Mercedes-Benz. It took me 77 minutes to manifest it. One imaginal act, completely surrendered to. The lightning bolt moved through me, and 77 minutes later, that's almost exactly the right amount of time. Might have been 78, might have been 92. But it certainly wasn't any longer than that. 77 minutes later, there were no inner arguments. There was a place to play in the playground of possibilities. When you stop putting this heavy burden on your mind, you can enter the playground of possibilities. I'm going to say it again, pearlpowerpack.com. Because you can blame the rocks in the sky, you can blame the rocks in your pocket, you can even blame your mind. If you blame the rocks in the sky, you got to wait for the rocks in the sky. If you blame the rocks in your pocket and you lose one of them, you've lost your marbles. On the other hand, you notice the name of the podcast? The name of the podcast is The Power of Imagination, because without imagination there is no manifestation. Not everyone plays with pictures or sticky tape. Not everyone does affirmations. In other words, not everyone is blaming the music in the car or the rearview mirror. What they're doing is they're actually driving the car, and you're always driving the car too. How effectively you drive the car determines what you understand about it. And I'm inviting you to explore the car. I actually think it's a little more complicated than that, so let's dive into that. Ready? Neville Goddard says every desire has its own plan and its own power of fulfillment. So I don't got to plan it out. I don't got to activate, I don't got to push, right? You have to use the power to push the car or the plane. But you see, most people are living lives like they're the passenger, not the pilot. And they're sitting in the passenger seat waiting for more peanuts, hoping they don't hit turbulence, hoping they get there on time. Meanwhile, the pilot's up front, doing what the pilot does. What the pilot mostly does is sit there while the autopilot takes care of almost everything. Almost all the time. I've had some lovely, lovely chats with pilots. I used to fly around the world a lot. And then I got tired of doing that. But they'd tell me most of the time it's not me. It's the autopilot. And either me or the co-pilot's got to be with the autopilot. Just in case. We got to make an adjustment. Take command of the plane. See, there's where you have free will and where you don't. You can choose any state. You can choose a state to believe that this stuff is bullshit. That the mind is what matters. All right. Enjoy the battle of the mind. On the other hand, in my world, my mind is the servant. My mind is that cool little... it's the servant. It's not the master. And I don't have to try to control it. It knows who's the boss. Because I'm not putting pressure on the servant. I let the servant do its job. And we're not going to go into that today. But I can tell you this much. When you buy the Pearl, pearlpowerpack.com, it all gets a lot funner. Because you're not making the stereo steer the car. You're not making the rearview mirror steer the car. You're not even making the turn signals steer the car. You know, turn signals. They indicate where the car's going sometimes. Like your words do. Your words sometimes indicate where you're going, where you're coming from. Some people edit the shit out of their words and they sound positive while they're inside terrified, trying to talk themselves into something. That's where they start mucking with the turn signals and the music and the rearview mirror. You don't want to see where you think you're going, so you look where you've been. It's nuts, isn't it? So that's what I got. I want to drop all that anxiety, all that bullshit. You want to have some peace of mind by letting the mind be a piece of your life, not the protectorate, not the presidente, not the premier. Anyway, pearlpowerpack.com. That's what I got today. Have a lovely day. My name is Mr. 2020, and you've been listening to the Power of Imagination podcast. Let's imagine up something yummy as we go into the silence. I met her and surrendered to something we call more, please. There was a glance. It led to a dance. 14 years later, we're still having romance. How about you? More, please. Dive deeper, soar higher. Have a lovely day. See ya.